You can forgive the lie, the silence, the mixed signals, even the way they made you feel replaceable, but there is one line an empath stops crossing back over. It is not always the first betrayal. It is not always the message they ignored while posting a story. It is not even the moment you saw them liking other people's posts while your heart sat in their unread inbox. The real line is quieter than that. It happens when your body finally understands that caring harder will not make someone respect you deeper. You know that strange feeling when you keep checking your phone even though you already know the answer? When their name appears and your mood changes before you can stop it? When you rehearse the perfect message in your head, then delete it because some part of you knows they will twist your feelings into too much? That is not weakness. That is your nervous system trying to solve inconsistency like it is danger. Because when someone gives you warmth one day and distance the next, your mind starts chasing the version of them that made you feel safe. You are not just missing them. You are trying to get back to the moment before they made you doubt your worth. But stay with me, because this is where everything changes. An empath may forgive the mistake, the coldness, the disappearing act, the fake innocence, the "I've just been busy" excuse. But once they realize someone is using their forgiveness as permission, something inside them goes silent. And that silence is not weakness. That silence is the line. The moment they ignore you, your mind does not treat it like a simple delay. It treats it like a threat. That is why one unread message can ruin your whole mood. You tell yourself, maybe they are busy. But then you see them online. You see them post a story. You watch them act normal while your chest gets tight, and suddenly the silence feels personal. This is where most people misunderstand empaths. You are not just upset because someone took too long to reply. You are reacting because inconsistency activates the part of you that searches for safety. Your brain starts scanning for clues. Did I say too much? Did I annoy them? Are they pulling away? Did they find someone better? That loop is exhausting because it gives you a job you were never supposed to have, proving that you are still worth choosing. And the more you care, the easier it becomes to blame yourself. You start reading old messages, checking their tone, comparing how they used to talk to how they talk now. You are not creating drama. You are trying to understand why the emotional temperature suddenly changed. But here is the hidden mechanism. When someone is warm, then cold, then warm again, your nervous system starts attaching to the relief, not the person. The reply becomes a reward. Their attention becomes proof. Their small return feels bigger than it should because your body was sitting in uncertainty. Before you send another message trying to fix the energy, pause. Being ignored does not automatically mean you did something wrong. Sometimes it simply shows you how unsafe someone can make you feel when they control the rhythm of closeness. And once you understand that, the next question becomes even more important. What does chasing teach them about your boundaries? The moment you chase someone who keeps pulling away, you may think you are asking for clarity. But sometimes, without realizing it, you are teaching them that your boundary can be negotiated. You send one message, then another. Then you soften the tone so they do not feel attacked. Then you explain what hurt you, but you add, "It's okay if you were busy," even though deep down it did not feel okay. You are trying to be mature. You are trying not to look needy. But beneath the surface, something dangerous starts happening. They learn that distance makes you work harder. And this is where most people lose their power. Because the chase does not just affect how they see you, it affects how you see yourself. Every time you reach for someone who keeps stepping back, your nervous system starts linking love with pursuit. You begin to feel like connection is something you must earn through patience, overthinking, emotional labor, and silence around your own needs. That is why you can know someone is treating you badly and still feel pulled toward them. Your mind says stop, but your body says fix it. Because the last time they came back, the relief felt so strong that your system remembered the reward more than the disrespect. This is how intermittent attention becomes addictive. Not because they are special, but because unpredictability makes your brain wait for the next small sign. But here is the shift. Self-respect is not proving you can survive being ignored. Self-respect is refusing to audition for basic consistency. You do not have to punish them. You do not have to send a dramatic paragraph. You simply stop training people to believe that your care has no limit. Because once you stop chasing, something uncomfortable appears. The truth of whether they were choosing you or only responding when you made it easy. And that truth leads to the next line you must learn to read. Promises mean nothing when the pattern keeps speaking louder. The most dangerous thing about a promise is that it can sound like change before anything has actually changed. They say, I'll do better. They say, I've just been going through a lot. They say, you know I care about you. And because you feel deeply, you do not just hear the words, you hear the version of them you wanted to believe in. That is where the confusion begins. Because words give your heart something to hold, but patterns show you what your nervous system has been living inside. A promise can calm you for one night. A pattern trains you for weeks. One apology can make you soften, but repeated disrespect slowly teaches you to expect disappointment before it even happens. You start noticing things you wish you did not notice. They disappear, then return like nothing happened. They act close one day and cold the next. They make future plans, then move like those words never left their mouth. Fake friends exclude you, then act innocent when you pull away. Someone says you matter, but their behavior keeps making you feel optional. And the hardest part is not that they lied. Sometimes they may even mean what they say in the moment. The harder truth is that meaning something briefly is not the same as choosing it consistently. Pause here, because this is the part most people miss. Your peace cannot be built on someone's best mood. It has to be built on what they repeatedly show you when there is nothing to gain, no argument to escape, and no fear of losing access to you. That is why emotional discipline means watching the pattern without editing it to protect your hope. You do not have to hate them. You just have to stop treating potential like proof. Because once you keep ignoring patterns, the damage moves deeper. It stops being about what they did and starts becoming what you believe about yourself after they did it. This is the part that hurts more quietly than the ignoring itself. After enough inconsistency, you stop asking, why are they acting this way? And start asking, what is wrong with me? That is the identity damage. At first, you only question the connection. Then you question your tone, then your standards, then your personality. You wonder if you are too emotional, too intense, too available, too hard to love. And somehow, the person who gave you mixed signals becomes the person you are trying to impress again. That is how silence slowly gets inside your self-image. They leave you on scene, and instead of thinking, this is disrespectful, you think, maybe I should have said less. They text only when they are bored, and instead of thinking, I deserve consistency, you think, at least they remembered me. They make you feel needy for asking for basic respect, and you start shrinking your needs so you can stay easier to keep. But the dangerous part is not what they did. It is what you started believing after they did it. You were not dramatic for noticing the change. You were not weak for hoping. You were reacting to inconsistency, not inventing it. If something in this video just made you pause, that pause matters. Stay with it. And if you want to keep going deeper, subscribing means the next video finds you when you need it most. Here is the power shift. Your worth cannot be measured by someone's capacity to recognize it. Some people only understand your value when your access disappears. But by then, your job is not to convince them. Your job is to come back to yourself before their confusion becomes your identity. Because the real boundary is not a speech. It is what you stop allowing after you finally see the pattern clearly. The real boundary begins when you stop trying to make the wrong person understand the pain they keep benefiting from. A lot of people think a boundary is a long message, a final paragraph, a perfect explanation that finally makes them see how badly they hurt you. But sometimes the more you explain, the more they learn how to debate your feelings instead of respecting them. That is why you can say, this hurt me, and they respond with, you're overthinking. You can ask for consistency, and they make you feel demanding. You can explain the same thing 5 different ways, and somehow the conversation ends with you apologizing for having a reaction. That is not clarity. That is emotional quicksand. A real boundary is not, please understand why I'm hurt. A real boundary is, I will not keep placing myself where my hurt has to be defended like a court case. Here is where your power comes back. You do not need to announce every limit to prove you have one. Sometimes the boundary is replying slower because your peace comes first. Sometimes it is not answering a late-night message from someone who ignored you all day. Sometimes it is leaving the group chat where fake friends keep making you feel invisible. Sometimes it is refusing to reopen a conversation with someone who only wants access, not accountability. The hidden mechanism is simple. People often test the cost of disrespect. If there is no cost, the pattern continues. If every disappearance is followed by your forgiveness, they may start treating your patience like a permanent feature of your personality. But your softness was never supposed to be public property. You can be kind and still unavailable for confusion. You can care and still leave. You can forgive and still decide that access to you now has conditions. And once that boundary becomes real, do not be surprised when they return. When they return after ignoring you, the message usually feels smaller than the damage they caused. A simple, hey, a random meme, a late night, you up? A casual reply to your story like they did not just leave you sitting in confusion for days. And suddenly your body reacts before your mind can catch up. Your heart jumps. Your mood shifts. Some part of you feels relief. But pause before you call that relief love. Sometimes the return is not repair. Sometimes it is a check, a quiet test to see if the door is still open, if the old access still works, if they can step back into your energy without ever facing what their absence did to you. That does not mean every person who comes back has bad intentions. Some people are avoidant. Some are emotionally immature. Some do not understand the weight of their silence. But the question is not only why they returned. The question is whether they returned with awareness. Do they acknowledge the pattern? Do they take responsibility without making you comfort them? Do their actions become more consistent, or do they just give you enough warmth to reset the cycle? Because if they disappear, return, calm you down, then disappear again, that is not connection. That is emotional recycling. This is where silence becomes louder than any explanation. You do not have to punish them. You do not have to act cold. But you also do not have to reward a return that comes with no accountability. Let their comeback meet the new version of you. The version that does not panic. The version that watches. The version that understands that access is earned by consistency, not nostalgia. Because the final level is not blocking your feelings. It is learning how to detach without becoming bitter. Detachment does not mean you stop feeling. It means your feelings stop driving you back to the same place that broke your peace. That is the difference most people never learn. When you have cared deeply, walking away can feel like becoming heartless. You start wondering if silence makes you cruel. You worry that not replying means you are acting like them. You question whether protecting yourself is somehow too harsh. But detachment is not revenge. Detachment is emotional discipline after emotional confusion. It is the moment you stop letting someone's inconsistency control your nervous system. Their name appears and your whole day does not collapse. They post something and you do not investigate the meaning behind it. They act normal after hurting you and you no longer feel responsible for making them understand the damage. This is not bitterness. This is balance returning. Because bitterness still keeps them at the center. Bitterness still checks, compares, watches, waits, proves. Real detachment is quieter. It says, I can care about what happened without letting it keep owning me. You do not need to hate them to outgrow them. You do not need to erase the good memories to admit the pattern was hurting you. You do not need to become cold just because someone mishandled your warmth. The hidden shift is this: your empathy becomes powerful only when it includes you too. If you can understand their fear, their avoidance, their confusion, their immaturity, but you abandon yourself in the process, that is not love. That is self-erasure wearing a soft voice. So let go cleanly. No performance, no begging, no final essay written from pain. Just a quiet return to your own life. Because the real ending is not when they understand what they lost. The real ending is when you stop losing yourself trying to be understood.